Oi! You gets is the worst Big Mek and Mad Dog ever!
What? What do you mean? How do you figure that? What do we do wrong?
My arms are too zoggin' short. Wag! Welcome back to the Red Ones Go Fast. Old Big Mek here, and in this episode, we are playing with, well, some knobs and some boys. Let's get into it! Right on. So for those of you that haven't seen it, and I'll put a link up there somewhere, I did a video a little bit ago on getting your whole army out, setting it up, taking a look at it, and doing that like step back from the trees and look at the whole forest, and make sure the whole army still makes sense color scheme wise and detail wise. It doesn't need to be identical, but enough that like nothing looks out of place. And if something looks out of place, to touch it up. And this is now the video where we will actually do that work. Before we get too far into it though, I have been working on a painting project that I've been trying to get done for quite a few weeks now, and that is a whole bunch of knobs. You see I had a bunch of knobs in my army, and obviously leading squads, and also like a knob squad. But they weren't really very updated, period. So making sure they were all on 32mm bases, and then making sure they all had boss poles. It's just something that I didn't do back when I first did my army in 3rd edition, and I finally got my hands on enough bits to really put boss poles in everybody, and decided that I really liked it. So I've been doing that, and one of the results is this little guy right here named Stumpy. Now Stumpy is a knob body from the Boyz set. So that is the regular old school 11 Boyz in the box set. It uses a regular set of legs and then this kind of elongated torso, so they're always kind of stumpy looking and just, I don't know, a little dumb. But I had this power claw, and I just kind of stuck it on there on this guy's arm where his arm was missing, and it just looked funny in like the right proper way. And I struggled with the right arm for a while until I found this this little mechanical one from one of the, I believe this is actually from the new Beastnaga set, and yeah, it just worked. So yeah, he had an unfortunate run-in with something very big that chopped both of his arms off, and he went to the Bad Doc in the Big Mek and ordered himself a power claw and a slugga, and that's exactly what they gave him. He just forgot to order elbows. So now he is the angriest little knob in my entire army, and I kind of love him. So all right, let's look at the knobs, and then let's get into working on the army. So far, along with Stumpy, we have this other old school knob with power claw here. And again, this is another one of the Boyz squad knobs on the regular leg. And in fact, I think that is even the power claw from the Boyz squad as well, and even the boss pole. So he is very much old school like that. And we have the brand new monopose Boyz knob with power claw and everything set up there. So those three are going to be part of a squad, the rest of which is right here and will need to be worked on. This, however, is the main squad that has been my focus of attention. These are all the knobs from the Assault on Blackreach set. That is the 5th edition starter, one of the absolute greatest Warhammer boxes of all time. And yeah, these knobs still absolutely hold up. You just got to cut them off their slotted bases and put them on a 32mm, and then again, add boss poles to them. And that's really all it takes. Most of these are, other than the boss pole, as built from that set. There's this guy as well, but there is one that is a conversion. Yeah, here we go, this guy. This is a new Big Choppa from, I believe, the new monopose knob, and yeah, decided that it worked very nicely on there. And then I think a couple of head swaps, but yeah, I now have a full 5-man knob squad with Big Choppas all done up and ready for the army and updated. And really, that update is what we're talking about today. So this is another knob. This is one of the ones that is a leader of a Boyz squad. And you can see I've added a boss pole to him. It was something that he didn't necessarily have before. And yeah, just trying to get these squads lined up with everything else in the army. And I'll show you what's been different. So again, here's the whole army, at least the infantry units, as we set them out. And you can see they look pretty uniform. You know, you've got the same base on all of them, the same basing material, the same grass tufts. That goes a long way. Obviously, all of my skin tones are different, even on the same model. Like, for example, the War Boss here is a much darker green than the light green on the Grot. But yeah, that's on purpose, and that looks great. But I do have some with red armor, I do have some with black armor, and I have some with kind of like a majority orange armor. And really, the armor colors and the leathers don't matter because it's that orange accent color that ties the whole army together. And every single model you can look at, you can see the orange accent color and you can pick up. You'll notice, however, that when it comes to the Boyz squads, we get a little bit different look. This right here is the first Boyz squad I did, and these guys are actually old paint jobs from way back in the day that all I had done was add the orange to them, and then I later rebased them on the 32 millimeters, and you'll notice there's not a lot of weathering and there's no blood on the choppas, and this is something that holds true for this entire squad. And so they kind of stick out a little bit as being maybe not necessarily the same paint scheme as the rest of the Boyz. In fact, if we go to this one here, one of the more closer, newer ones, we've got the blood there on the choppa, you've got the silver chipping on the armor, and a little bit more weathering to things. And yeah, even this squad here, same thing. Here's the knob. He's got the blood on the big choppa chain choppa thing, and these boys all have the blood going and a little bit more weathering. The guns are a little bit more weathered, the uniforms are a little bit more weathered, and things of that nature, whereas these ones are just a little bright and a little clean. So this squad has the weathering but not the blood. This squad has neither, so we are going to do both things to this squad and do the blood to that squad to make all three of them look the same. Alright, I got all three Boyz squads out here on the painting desk so you can get a better look at what I mean. Here is Squad 1. And Squad 1 is made up of all the old school Boyz, but you can see the no blood on there, and also just the coloring on them is very, very uniform. All the skin is the same skin tone. This is before I started painting them different colors. All of the leather is the same color brown. There's no like straps picked out or armor panels or much of anything at all in them. This one is squad number 2, and you can see there's a definite style change. We've got the straps are black, we've got some red on some of the helmets, there is a little bit of variation in skin tone, and as you see, this squad actually has some of the new monopose Boyz mixed into it. And then this is squad number 3, and you can see squad 3 here again is more like squad 2. You've got more weathering on it, you've got the straps and whatnot picked out. They are just lacking the blood other than the knob, who I just finished. So we need to bloody these guys up. We need to do a whole lot of work to this squad, and then we'll get all three of these squads really looking uniform. Here's some more side-by-side to show you what I'm talking about. The knob or the boy on the left is from one of the newest squads. The boy on the right is from one of the oldest. For the most part, they are okay, except for the one on the left clearly has the belts picked out, and the one on the right doesn't. We also have some subtle weathering here on the choppa that is a little bit different than the hand-painted weathering just on the edge of that one. And just the way that the orange is picked out. This guy just has the straps. This one's got a little bit more, on his helmet and whatnot. Even the knob is quite behind. You can see no paint on any of the straps. Again, no blood on that axe, and very minimal orange detailing. Nothing on the boss pole, nothing on the weapons, and that's just not the same as I've been doing on my more modern paint jobs. Here you've got orange all over that big choppa, you've got orange on his armor plate, on his wrist greaves, even his little slugger there on the back has some more paint colors on it. And same story with this one here. He's got the boss pole, has the orange on it, his armor has the orange on it, the slugger, like there's just a lot more going on. So you definitely need to touch that up as well. Now, interesting fact, one thing I do to keep my squads apart is I put a squad number on the bottom of them. So all of these guys are C1, all of these guys are C2, and all of these guys are C3. And that helps me keep them apart so that if they're on the battlefield and they get mixed up, you can pick up an individual figure and figure out what squad it belongs to. All right, first thing first, we're going to start with straps, and for that we use Tamiya XF1 flat black. In literally just a few seconds, Slap the straps on. You can see the ones on the top are already dry. The belt loop is in the process of drying, and he already is starting to fit in a lot more with the other boys, even if his browns are not as good. And it really is a pretty simple process. I just start up here at the straps and literally just fill them in with the black. I'm not worried about shading. I'm not worried about highlights or anything like that. These are, after all, just basic boys. I just want that little bit of contrast going on them so that on the tabletop they fit in with the rest of the army and don't look out of place or like maybe they're a different paint scheme or just noticeably from a different era. There we go, got the top ones painted. Now another thing that I've run into, you can see here on his foot, when I rebased these guys, I used super glue, and super glue can frost things. And so I will be touching up the black on his boot as well. And there you have it. The boots are looking much better. They are now no longer frosted, and all of his belts have been done. And there we go. We're barely 20 minutes into this project, and this squad is already looking so much more like the others. As you see, we got those straps looking right on there. Now, the next step is going to be, you see some of the straps like this one right here have metal parts on them that are the same color brown as the shirts. We'll need to metal those up. But first, I'm actually going to do the orange. And the reason for that is simple. Even on these other old generation orcs, you see I've got some orange on the weapon there, on the belt buckle, as well as his armor plate. So there's just a lot more orange going on the rest of the army, and I want to make this squad match as well. And of course, that color for this army is to me X6 orange. And on this updated one, I can show you why I want more orange. The whole idea is to get it from every angle. So from the top, you see some orange on his wrist there. From the front, you've got the little armor panel and his little loincloth. From his right side, you've got the slugga and the wrist. From the back, you've got, again, the little loincloth and the little back armor. And from this side, you've got the wrist. And so no matter which direction this guy is facing on the battlefield, you see some of that army color to tie him in. Compared to this guy that I haven't done yet, he does have it on both wrists, but as you see, you kind of really only get it from the sides. From the top, they get lost, and especially from like a back left corner. So adding some more orange to him will make him a lot more visible. And here for the after, now you've got him up on his armor plate, so you can see him easily from the front. We've got some on the side of the slugga there to help on the side. We've got the back panel for the back. And then on this side, you can see the little belt buckle. And obviously from the top. So now no matter what angle you look at him, you get a good dose of that army color tying him in. All right, our orange step is done. And as you see, the squad is now much more uniform with the others. We've got quite a bit of orange detailing on all three squads. And now it's time to even everything else out. Now this next trick I've talked about before on the channel, but it's been a hot minute, and that is to do the little silver detailing and weathering on the models. You get some of these really cheap really cheap foam brushes. You can get like a 10-pack of these for a couple of bucks, and you can chop up the foam and then you dip it in silver paint, get most of it back off the foam, and then you dab the foam on the part that you are trying to make weathered. And that is how you get this lovely effect right here on these shoulder pads. You can see that silver chipping along the edges. You can go heavier like here on the faceplate. You can go lighter like here around the hatch. And yeah, you can just use this foam dipped in silver to make this kind of weathering. So here's a before with our orange armor panels on the top and the back. And just like that, you've got some chipping. And now the top as well. And this is actually a step that I'm doing to some of the other squads too. You can see the red helmet here, not very realistic with the rest of the army. So I'm going to sponge a little wear, especially on the front where he's headbutting. And I've got some nice chipping. All right, after sponging this squad and doing some touch-ups to this one and this one, I'm going to go in with the silver paint and a brush and kind of grab any rivets or other areas that still need to be silver. Such as you look at his belt here and there are some rings that attach it to the armor. And just grabbing the highlight of those with the silver makes it look much more finished. The same story on the back, we've got all these buckles connecting the armor strap, and now it looks much more complete. You know, it's funny, even the squads that I thought were done, such as this guy, he didn't have enough orange, and I painted that orange stripe on the top and on the bottom of his axe. But one thing I noticed is that the strap here on the back holding his slug in was never picked out. So I'm going to touch that up with the black. And that is much better. Alright, we've reached the point where our squads are really trying to come together. Again, we're not so much focusing on the tree as the forest. We are coming out, backing up, really looking at the squads and going, do these look like different squads in the same army? And the answer is getting to be yes. The last few steps we need are the squad here that is totally done has the blood splatter on the weapons. We need to add that to squad 1 and squad 3. And for that, I actually like to use Citadel Contrast Flesh Tearers Red. This color is like so intense that you can really like layer it up. And so if you put it really, really thin, it looks like old dried blood that's kind of washed out and oxidized. And if you really thicken it up, it really adds a lot of character to it. It's something that I've done a lot on this Def Dread. As you can see on the claws here, you've got some flatter red areas where there's old dried blood, and some nice glossy areas where there is fresh blood on there. And yeah, it really makes for a good look. So that is my secret sauce. The other secret is to use a brush that is absolutely knackered, because you want a splatter effect. You're actually going to try to get as much paint off of the brush as you can, like dry brushing, and then when you do it, the first few coats are going to be very thick, so you want those on the craziest weapons doing the most damage. And you want to go in the direction that the weapon is being used. I'll show you again here on the boy. I am using almost no pressure at all. I am dragging kind of just the ends of these knackered bristles across to really sell that effect. And just that one step really adds more character to the army and adds another color of visual interest. Here's an example of that layering effect I was talking about. You can see the much drier brush fades pretty fast and looks dried out, whereas the thicker area is fresh, wet blood. And on some of the boys, I like to put a little blood on the knuckles to make it look like they've been punching someone as well. And with that effect done, this squad really does look like it belongs, and so does this one. We are now down to the last couple of steps, one of which is the nails. You can see on the newer boy here on the left, you can see his fingernails are painted. On the older one here on the right, they are just green. So I'm going to go through everyone and make sure their nails are touched up. To show you what a difference that makes, here is a Choppa boy with his axe way up there. And in just a few seconds, we've got a nicer detail. And even from further away on the tabletop, you could see that thumbnail really sticks out. So it does help tie it together. And with that, we are done painting, and it is time for our final step. Now this one has a lot more to do with tying this in with the vehicles more than the infantry to itself, and that is the Tamiya weathering powder. I featured this a lot on the channel for my army, and on anything that has armor or a vehicle, you could see I really use this weathering powder to effect, especially down there in the leg area on this Def Dread. And it's just something that helps tie the whole army into its environment and to that dusty desert look. I mean, if you look at this boy here, you know, he looks pretty decent, but you don't really tie him into the environment. And I'll show you what I mean. So again, here is the before. We are all touched up. We've done our black straps. We've done our orange detailing. We've done our bone and our blood. And yeah, he's looking great. But he looks like he is standing on top of the desert, not necessarily in the desert. And so by taking the weathering powder and just lightly dusting, especially the feet area, kind of up from the bottom, around his toes, it just kind of imparts that little bit of dirtiness to him, that now he looks like he is part of this domain instead of just on it. Here is another really great one. We've got a boot that we've touched up from the super glue change. We used the sponge part to put a little darker, and then the brush part to kind of spread it in. And now he looks like he's actually stepping through the desert. And with that, we are done. We have got 3 squads that, although they are still individual unique squads, look like all the same army. We're getting the same values, the same tones, the same basing, the same detail colors, and it really worked out nice. We've also got that lovely knob banner on the bus pole on the back of the knobs. And yeah, all of our basing is tied into our models. I just couldn't be happier with how this turned out. Now this really looks like a proper army. And of course you really see this when we go back to the whole main giant overall army. Now these Boyz squads don't stand out from the forest. Everything has those same values and tones, and it looks much more like a cohesive army that was done on purpose, painted at the same time, or at least in the same style. And it doesn't matter whether you look at the newest Knob Squad or the oldest Boyz Squad, you're getting the same look, which is really, really nice to have. All right, I hope you really enjoyed this episode. This one was quite an undertaking to do. Obviously, there's all the actual repair work and painting and all of that, but also filming, painting stuff on film, especially when you don't have professional rigs like those bigger YouTube channels, is very challenging and time consuming. So hopefully you got something from this, if not necessarily individual technique, just that whole stepping back, putting your whole army down on the table, stepping back and looking at it, thinking from your opponent's point of view and going, does this look like all one army? And if it doesn't, identifying what it is that looks out of place and coming up with a game plan on how to fix it. And as you saw even with mine, sometimes the ones that you think that are done still could use a little something almost to go backwards even to line up with some of the earlier works. And now everything has a nice uniform look to it. It looks right proper. All right, that's going to do it for this very long episode. Thank you very much for everyone that has stayed here till the end, especially to my patrons. You will see their names flash on the screen through the outro song, of course, done by the one and only DeGoff Rockers. And yeah, I really couldn't do it without their support. So if you like what you saw here, throw in a like or a comment, sharing it with somebody. Maybe consider joining our Discord, completely free in the link below. Or if you really, really like it, coming on over to our Patreon, I would really appreciate it. We are ramping up for Orktober 2024, where old Big Mek himself will do a video every single day of the month, every one of them orc themed, and it's going to be an absolutely wild ride. Last year was amazing. I have a whole playlist on the main page of my channel. You should definitely go check out all 31 videos, and yeah, prepare to be cranked up to 11 this year. All right, there's only one thing left to do, and those of you that have been here for a while know what it is. All together now, Wagon!